Welcome to Communication Skills for Working Women. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Rose May. Do you find yourself second-guessing or avoiding conversations because you're worried about being misunderstood?
You're not alone. On this show, we're sharing tangible tools for assertiveness, emotional resilience, and real-life communication wins and fails.
Let's sharpen our communication together. Hello. It's me again, Rose May, coming up with a follow-up to our conversation that we had on Monday about microaggressions, women enacting microaggressions against other women. And I shared my experience about how disorienting that was for me to recognize that in several different instances. And again, it's because I expect solidarity. I expect people to understand. And when that doesn't happen, it feels more like a betrayal than anything else. And I wanted to take a second to connect. We talked about this a little bit, but to connect the microaggressions that we're experiencing to power and dynamics in an organization, right? Microaggressions don't just happen in a vacuum. They happen in systems where power is unevenly distributed. In workplaces where leadership is already scarce for women, the competition can be amplified. When there are only one or two seats at the table, people engage in scarcity thinking, and that scarcity activates our survival instincts. So for women who've worked hard to navigate these male-dominated environments, there can be this unconscious alignment with the dominant culture, right? And in this instance, it could be the male-dominant culture. Sometimes that looks like distancing from other women who don't conform. Sometimes it looks like policing others' tones or their appearance, their motherhood choices, their race, their sexuality, or ambition, or their gender expression. And here's where diversity actually deepens the conversation. Not all women experience the workplace the same way. We've talked about this many times. Not everybody experiences these things the same way. A white woman may unconsciously enact microaggressions toward a woman of color. A straight woman may minimize the experience of a queer colleague. A neurotypical woman may misinterpret the communication style of a neurodivergent coworker as incompetence. I've actually seen this many, many times. A senior woman leader may subtly undermine a younger woman she perceives as a threat. And these behaviors, they often reflect some sort of internalized bias, right? That's been shaped by a larger system. Some of those systems include racism, ableism, classism, heteronormativity. It's more than just mean girl behavior. So when we're talking about power dynamics in this situation, we're talking primarily about the proximity to power. Who feels secure at that organization? Who feels replaceable? Who has been told there's only room for one? Microaggressions can actually become a way of managing the anxiety about our status. And this doesn't excuse the harm that is caused, but it kind of does help us understand bits of it, right? So going back to the episode, what do? We notice the pattern, right? Trust the data. If you're noticing this, trust the data. Secondly, differentiate intent from impact. Someone may not mean harm, but the impact still matters. And if you have power, use that power intentionally. Amplify other women's ideas in meetings. Interrupt subtle dismissals. Name their contributions. And lastly, actually, I got one more after this. This is not lastly. I just had another thought. Fourth, I think I'm on number 4. Examine the internalized narratives that we may have. Are there women you instinctively judge as too loud or too emotional or too ambitious or too soft? Where did those standards come from? Here's my last point. Shift away from scarcity to collective advancement. The research that we have consistently shows that diverse teams perform better. So this inclusion that we're talking about, it's not charity, it's strategy. When we create space for multiple leadership styles, multiple communication patterns, multiple identities, organizations thrive. This is repeated constantly throughout the literature. So this conversation, like, it's not about blaming women, right? We're not out here to blame women. We're just bringing awareness, recognizing how these systems that we're all trapped in, how we're all play a part in how they shape behavior, and how we can choose differently, especially in our work environment. And diversity isn't just about who's in the room. It's about how that power moves within the room. When we become conscious of that, we don't just reduce the microaggressions, we actually transform the entire culture. So, something to think about this week. As you go on through your week, think about the power in the room. What is this looking like? How is this power shared? And what we can do to transform the culture. Till next time. When you feel confident in your communication, everything changes.
We'd love to hear your wins, failures, and insights on Instagram at Communication Skills for Women. Leave a review and connect with us.
Until next time, speak clearly and listen bravely.